Did you prepare some other documents that represent media coverage in 4 counties in Idaho for this case?
We did. Once TrueScope had and it's an ongoing thing. We're constantly monitoring your news. So even this morning, you would have received a report of any media exposure that has happened since yesterday morning. It runs on a 24-hour cycle where we pushed out a report to the clients, but we're collecting it in real time. So if a client wanted to look at their workspace at 3 p.m. today, all that news would be in there. I may have digressed from your question.
That's I'm going to hand you an exhibit.
Okay.
This is the second part of C, and I'm going to put that in front of you because it might be easier to see. You've got 2 screens.
Yes, that was the second part of my answer. We did prepare a media measurement analysis. Cheryl Lewis's team, and that's part of the combination of services that we're providing.
Okay, looking at this page here, can you please explain to the court what this is?
Sure. You have 2 pie charts. On the left, you have the volume of media coverage specific to the keywords and phrases searched for our client related to this case. You see on the left, out of all the media coverage between January 1st of 2023 and July 15th, 36% of that coverage, or just over 36% of that, was seen or had the opportunity to be seen in Latah County. On the right side, you have another pie chart that shows the population of Idaho, and it shows what percentage Latah County represents of the total percentage of Idaho, which is 2.75%.
On the second bullet point of notes there's some reference to census. Can you explain that note?
Sure. The census data used for this was from, I believe, July of 23. Of the 40,924 people in Latah County, we were asked to look at age eligible to serve on jury duty amongst all of that, the people in the county, which equated to 61%, or just under 25,000 people of the nearly 41,000 all are age eligible to serve on the jury.
Right.
In Latah County.
Going to the next page, what does this page tell the court?
This is the same analysis framework performed on a different county. Again, on the left, you see the total media coverage in Idaho for the same date range, but 34% of the media coverage was seen in Ada County, which is just a couple percentage points below that of Latah County. The primary difference is the right-hand pie chart, which shows the population of Ada County relative to all of Idaho, and it's over a quarter of the state population, in Ada, or 26.42%.
What conclusions do you draw when you compare the 2 counties' data?
There's a lot more people in Ada County, and where I would be going with that as a media analysis, when I would interpret this from a media analysis perspective, is the propensity to dilute the media exposure in a larger population is a factual function of that. If you have a certain number of stories divided by the population, the number of stories a person can see is fewer if the population is larger. Did that answer your question, or was I? Yeah.
I'll follow up with another specific one. Out of the 2 counties, where is the most opportunity for a resident to view stories about this case?
It's by far in Ada County. When we did the analysis of the age eligible process, nearly 300,000 people in Ada County are jury age eligible, compared to just under 25,000 in Latah County.
I'm gonna just ask my question again. It was probably inartful on my part. Do more people in Latah County, is there more saturation in Latah County or more saturation with media coverage in Ada County?
Yes. A person in Latah County would be exposed to far more media coverage than people, a community in Ada County.
Can we now switch to the third slide? What does this show?
This adds in 2 additional counties that we were asked to look at. It reflects media exposure specific to Bannock and Camden counties.
And and then there's also a gray area, rest of Idaho. You just want to explain what we see here?
Sure. So if you look at the volume of media coverage for the same date range that the first 2, Latah, Ada, and then 4 counties we're looking at, out of all the media exposure for the state of Idaho, Latah received 36%, Ada had 27%, Bannock 1.56%, and Camden just over 3%. The rest of Idaho had just under a third of the meetings. So outside those 4 counties, the rest of the counties in Idaho, or the rest of the people that, rephrase that, the rest of the regions in Idaho would have been exposed to approximately 31.53% of the media exposure.
You turn next to, I believe it's page 5. Explain what opportunities to be seen are and the differences in the counties.
Sure. So in this pie chart, again, we're looking at the same date range. Opportunities to be seen are maybe best described relative to probability versus possibility. Each person in any of these 4 counties, or the rest of Idaho for that matter, have an equal possibility to see a story. It's like flipping a coin. You can flip a coin 100 times and the possibility of it coming up heads is equal every time. The probability of it coming up heads every time is much different. Probability is a mathematical statement, a quantitative measure. And so opportunities to be seen are dependent on the media type. So we measure opportunities to be seen for, say, newspapers based on their circulation. These are paid subscribers who you then infer pay to receive that news, they consume that news. Television has Nielsen audience figures. Nielsen measures those in smaller markets quarterly, in larger markets 6 times a year, I believe. Any of the broadcast markets we're talking about and the DMAs affecting this pie chart would be measured quarterly. So opportunities to be seen are the possibility that people in that county would see it. It's the volume of those opportunities that creates the potential opportunity or probability that they've been exposed to X number of articles or media mentions, discrete articles, stories about this topic you're having us track. The numbers reflected on the pie chart show that over half of those opportunities to be seen reside within Latah County, nearly 60% or 57.03%. The opportunities to be seen per person in Ada County is 31.2%. Not quite half, but nearly half the opportunities. And that's a simple mathematical function of all the media exposure in that county divided by the population, or in this case, potentially age eligible for jury duty population.
And in terms of the green sliver there, Canyon County is close to Ada. And so if we assume that Canyon County residents might review Ada County news with its population of 180,000, is the dilution of Latah County, or the dilution of Canyon County still significantly greater than the saturation in Latah County?
If I understand the question correctly, how I may answer that is Canyon, and I would also say Bannock, unless you don't want me to mention Bannock, but the media exposure specific to those counties is statistically insignificant relative to the rest of Idaho, Latah County, and Ada County. In fact, if you combined all those two and grouped them into either one of those, it wouldn't change the inferences that we make on the data between Ada and Latah.
Can you turn to the next slide now? Tell the court which line represents which county and the color.
Sure, the darker line, the red line is maybe the easier one to see. That's Ada County, and the darker line, it's a blue or might look black on the screen, is Latah County.
And Judge, for your purposes, this is C1 that was filed with the reply, which is an update from the original memorandum to include a more recent date, the date that we filed, August 19th, the reply. So I don't know what one you're looking at, but the one on your computer screen is the one that we're talking about right now.
Thank you to tell me that.
Could you explain, Mr. Murphy, what the purpose of showing this over time does for the court?
Yeah, one of the more interesting charts that we develop for our clients is media coverage over time. And in this case, we're looking at January 1st of 23 through August 19th of 24. If you look at the red line, which is Ada County, you can see that aside from May 2023, it often lags by volume of coverage behind Latah County, in most cases by 50% or more of the media coverage. So if I rephrase that in maybe simpler terms, the media exposure in Ada County for the majority of time between January 2023 and August, continuing into August 2024, has been far less in Ada County than in Latah County.
And what can you tell from the spikes? Have you correlated those with case events?
Sure. It might be convenient to look at it analogous to maybe a stock portfolio. Oftentimes a peak is followed by a valley, unless you invest in NVIDIA. But May 2023, you see 198 stories. I believe that highest peak for Ada County was the indictment is what's driving that peak. Now, when you compare that to Latah County, I can see that moving towards that indictment, there was ongoing media coverage. So while Ada spiked, it had a quick uptick in what I would call a fairly slow decay because of the extreme nature of the topic of this story. When we look at Latah County, it is more consistent. And after the indictment, Latah County surpasses media coverage over time consistently up through August of this year.
And this was filed with the court on August 19th, and we're here on August 29th. Have you been able to review and see what's going on with the coverage regarding this case right now as we sit here?
Yeah, I took a look Tuesday. I started seeing the media exposure ticking up again. It was fairly high yesterday. In my professional opinion, I would wager it's going to be extremely high today. And that's a function of public interest in an extreme news story. a story, you may have heard the phrase, this story has legs. A story that is extreme, unique, atypical, has greater legs than, say, high school football scores you hear on the 10 o'clock news on a Friday night. Those would have a very fast decay of memory on consuming viewers. This type of story will remain on the mind and be of interest up to and beyond the conclusion of this case, however that might be.
Would you flip to the next slide? This green line, what does it show?
It shows somewhat of a similar pattern across the entire country. It's the same date range. It's also showing media coverage over time, but it's looking at all media exposure nationwide. So while you feel things very acutely locally, even a story as extreme as this garners less interest the further you get away from the local community. And to look at this on a nationwide chart like this, you can see it remains in the mind, and these are large numbers. The indictment of over 13,268 or 13,268 media mentions on May 2023 shows that the nation was interested in it, but that decay has been faster on a nationwide level, just because, according to the decay of engagement on news stories, the further you get away, the less, I don't mean to sound callous, but the less interesting it is if you're in Florida than if you are in Latah County or something.
So in terms of looking at decay, I want to ask this in the context of the story waning for the court's purposes of projecting, say, months down the line next year at trial. Based on the data that you're seeing, is this story waning in the news?
No. In fact, if we could make one more line on any of these media coverage over time charts, you would see an upslope on the first one, this chart. You already see it ticking up, the one that compared Latah to Ada. If we could bring that chart forward to today, you would see that going up.